Doing a review on this album is probably not very wise. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and today I'm going to be checking out the new album, Jackpot Juicer, by the band Dance Gavin Dance. This is their 10th studio album, and I did a review on their last record, Afterburner, which I wasn't really all that into. I gave it a rating of a 4.6. However, I was challenged by some viewers to go back and listen to some of their older stuff, which I did. So I started with their first album, their 2007 release, Downtown Battle Mountain, and I worked my way through basically all their discography, and honestly, I really did fall in love with the band. They did change clean vocalists quite a bit throughout their career, and they ended up landing on Tillian Pearson, who has been with the band since the 2013 release Acceptance Speech. And over the course of the band's next basically 5 albums, he really grew as a vocalist and came into his own, and I was liking his style so much. And even though I wasn't that big of a fan of their last album, Afterburner, I was still very much looking forward to whatever it was they were going to do next. Unfortunately, on April 13th of 2022, bassist Tim Furyk, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, passed away, which shook the post-hardcore, and in fact, honestly, all of the music community. The allegations also came shortly after that. Tillian Pearson was being accused of sexual assault, which he said was caused by just stress and the loss of his friend and band member. He was taking it very hard, which, I mean, none of that is an excuse for any of the actions that he did. So, I mean, the band kicked him out, as they should. However, this album was already done, and it had a release date, and it had Tillian's vocals on it. So, because of that reason, I think it might be hard for fans to embrace this album and support it and really get into it, regardless of like his performance and how he does. They just don't want to support somebody with sexual assault charges against them, which I totally understand. So I'm not really sure how well this album is gonna do in terms of, sales and reception, and just if people are even really going to give it that much attention. But here I am doing a review on it. So let's talk about some music now. The album opens up with the song Untitled 2, which is an instrumental sequel to the first song off of their very first album, Downtown Battle Mountain, and it goes straight into the second song, Cream of the Crop. It comes in very strong with like this cool lead guitar that's typical Will-esque sounding. Both Tillian and John Mess are in the intro kind of thing, which is actually technically a chorus, as that's where the song starts, and it flows directly into verse 2, which has John Mess just in the back half of it, and heavy drums and a really strong bass section. Verse 2 is very thick with like this screeching guitar effect. The pre-chorus in the song is absolutely beautiful. Tillian's voice is great, and it complements the jazzy kind of guitar thing in chorus 2, which is about twice as long. The bridge has like this violin thing going on, which is very similar to what we hear in the first song, Untitled 2. And this song is very dramatic sound. It's almost kind of like a musical in a way. And the outro has like this jazz fusion thing with a breakdown. This is probably my favorite song, or at least a very close contender for my favorite song on the album, because there are other ones on here that are very, very good. Synergy was the first single to be released off of this album. It has John Mess in the intro with an exaggerated sounding melody. The verse is taken over by Tillian with this guitar that sounds kind of like it's just playing some trills. The pre-chorus is groovy as hell, with a unique timing on the melody. And John sounds so freaking good in the chorus as he plays off of the rhythm. Verse 2 features Ram Damiani. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name. He's the vocalist from Don Bracco, and his voice is a brilliant contrast, especially when you are expecting like Tillian to come in verse 2 and you're expecting the feature to be in the bridge, which is a very typical thing to do. It works so well. And this song goes through so many changes. It does feel kind of long, but it just makes it an emotional roller coaster. And it's just a roller coaster in terms of sound as well. Then we have the song Holy Ghost Spirit. And the intro has a typical Dance Gavin Dance feel to it, but the drums in it are so phenomenal. They got like this weird effect thing going on in the verse that sounds, I don't know, kind of like lasers. But then the drums go off completely in the chorus, and there's just just so beautiful. The refrain gives you a little bit of a break before John comes back in with all of his aggression, and everything comes together in this song in the bridge. And you don't realize that this song is building and building until you reach the bridge and the peak in the outro. For the Jeer starts off on the chorus, which has the newest member of the band, Andrew Wells, who is backing Tillian on vocals. He gets his own spotlight in the post-chorus, and it's just really nice to hear a different vocal tone going on. Verse 1 has a dynamic groove matching John Mess's distorted vocals, and the chorus, it's a good sounding chorus, but I gotta admit that the hook does become a little tiring after a while. It does become a little underwhelming and a little overused for sure. Andrew sounds so freaking elegant in verse 2, and I believe, I don't know, to me, he outshines Tillian in this, and a couple other places throughout this album as well. Then we have the song Ember, which has high energy with like a fluttering kind of guitar and John Mess's vocals kind of battling out with the drums, seeing who could play the fastest and more intense. Then it drops out almost completely, like it literally just drops you in verse 1 when like this floating atmosphere, but Tillian catches you and keeps you from hitting the ground with his nice gentle vocals. The chorus soars with some tweedly D's, which is to be expected from Dance Gavin Dance, and Tillian is going extra high in his vocals. It's just another roller coaster of a song that it slows down as it goes on, so it starts out pretty crazy, and as it goes on and on, it just kind of lulls you into this feeling that this craziness is kind of normal. And then we have the song Pop Off, which I believe is about a relationship that's falling apart due to somebody cheating. The refrains are very weird as they feature John Mess and kind of his nonsense style vocals. Tillian sings about the struggles of control and manipulation in this relationship over a chimey guitar chord progression, while the chorus continues talking about the toxicity and the aggression in this relationship. One Man's Cringe has a lot of references to past songs while also still kind of making a little bit of sense. I love how gentle the pre-chorus is, and then it keeps that same kind of energy in the chorus where you're kind of expecting it to go really hard, but they save it for the refrain where John Mess kind of goes crazy a little bit. Andrew Wells flexes his vocal ability again in verse 2 and in the outro, and he's just fitting right into this band so well. Then we have Feels Bad, Man. It has a slow, open groove with the guitar kind of like twinkling and a very thick bass line. The chorus keeps the same kind of musical presence, the kind of gentle sound to it, but this time has distorted vocals, and just the contrast sounds so great. Verse 2 has a really good vocal flow with some crescendos and like a crazy squeaky sounding guitar. It's a really just heartfelt sounding song that I really was able to get into very easily. Then we have Die Another Day, which has a beautiful guitar with some weird lyrics in the verse and a powerful build-up going into the chorus that's basically a showcase of the drums, which are, I don't know, every time the drummer is able to shine through, he really does. And I gotta say, he probably steals the show on a lot of these songs more often than not. The post-chorus has some crazy fast dynamics from the guitar playing a bunch of arpeggios. We see the first official breakdown in this song on the album, and some deeper like vocal performance from Tillian as well in the bridge, and it just kind of catches you off guard. I kind of felt like it was a feature or Andrew or something, but no, it was Tillian, and it sounded so good. Two Secret Weapons has this descending and ascending kind of guitar groove that builds up from the drums. The chorus is phenomenal sonically and lyrically. The progression in this song is just so freaking graceful. While there's nothing really crazy going on in terms of transitions, it just flows so well until we get to the outro that gets pretty heavy. Then we have Polka Dot Dobbins, which is a high-flying track that definitely brings the energy back up from the slower group of songs that we just made it through without really sacrificing that mellow groove that they were all carrying. And the outro is just so freaking good. Then we have Long Nights in Jail, which this is a track that, I don't know, I kind of had a hard time getting into. It's based on a real story that a fan shared with Tillian, and the lyrics are still in the form of metaphors, so it makes it a little hard to really understand without actually just having to think it out a little bit. The chorus has a great guitar melody that matches Tillian's vocals almost precisely. Then the pre-chorus is what I would say really shines the most. I don't know, this song, it just didn't really have anything that flashy in it, I suppose. I feel like it was just more of a fun song for them to make lyrically than it was musically, and because of that, it just, I don't know, it wasn't a bad song, it just didn't stand out to me as much as the others. Back on Deck was another song I kind of had a hard time getting into. It has like this shoegaze vibe with like a wobbly sounding rhythm from the guitar. The chorus has bigger chords and a little bit more powerful drums to it to help out. And I don't know why, I'm just not really feeling it all that much. Just the overall sound of this, like the melody and the guitars, maybe it's just the effect that they're using on the guitar becomes, dare I say, kind of annoying after a while. I will say that John's distortive vocals coming in the bridge helped the song out a lot, but it still just didn't do it for me. Then we have Current Events, which has like a throwback feel to Mothership with like more wheedly doos and a really just fantastic sounding guitar part in the chorus that I think Will is probably using guitar tapping to get that kind of melody to pop like it does. And not to mention Tillian and John are just both killing it in the chorus, and then Andrew mixes things up with his clean vocals in verse 2 with Tillian, while John goes absolutely crazy in the bridge, and Andrew is working alone in verse 3, and it's got a heavy outro. This one is another one that has a lot of transitions in it that works really well. It's another kind of roller coaster of a song, and I feel like it keeps that energy going, and I was really worrying that like the back half of this album just wasn't going to do it for me, but we went into a dip, and we're just going right back up again with the song Pray to God for Your Mother. This is like a really prominent guitar riff in the verse. The chorus takes off with one of the best, just absolute best moments on the albums, thanks to the really dominating sounding vocals and drums. The outro is definitely up there too. This is another one of the songs that I would place pretty close to being my favorite. Swallowed by Eternity is the longest song on this album, coming in just over 5 minutes. It's also the most, to me, it's the most real lyrically, as they're not like having a bunch of metaphors, and they're very straight to the point of what they're trying to say, as Tillian is expressing basically his struggles of being an artist. I mean, of course, John's refrains are kind of crazy and random, but that's just what he does, and it works out well, even in this song. The chorus sees Tillian questioning his life's work and his purpose and all of it, and it's got one of the like chillest prog songs on this album, and it just flows and it works so well. We even got Andrew who chimes in on his struggles as an artist in the outro. And I really love seeing this side of the band where they take a step back. They're not playing anything super crazy on the guitar, the drums. There's nothing like really intense happening, but it's just all fits. It all works so well. Like I said, it's one of the chillest and one of the proggiest moments on this album. And it's probably, to me, it's probably the top song for that reason. I think this one is definitely the favorite one. It's so great. It stands out, while at the same time it still feels like it fits in this album. And then we have the closing track, Have a Great Life, which is the perfect title for a closing track. It's very slow, theatrical, kind of mysterious at the same time. However, verse 1 shows its true aggressive colors. The post-chorus has like a guitar solo sounding melody under distorted vocals. It's just a really good contrast going on. And the bridge has Andrew on vocals, and all of the vocalists come in together on the outro, and it's a great closing track. However, I will say that just the intensity of it makes it feel like you don't really get a whole lot of closure, I think. This is a great album. I mean, it's a sonic roller coaster. It has a lot of stuff going on, and it doesn't really ever go off the rails. There's only like a few songs that I only liked and didn't love, and even then, it's just because they didn't have too many like standout moments to me, like the rest of the songs did. Like, they were still good. I still enjoyed them, but they didn't like, I don't know, they didn't wow me at all. The guitar tone changed a few times, making the Wheedly D's a little bit less redundant. And the new addition of the vocalist, Andrew Wells, just makes the clean vocals also not quite as redundant. It's definitely a step up from Afterburner for me. The only thing I didn't like about this album is it's pretty bloated. I mean, it's 18 songs. 18, and it's over an hour long, but it's 18 songs. It's a lot. You basically have 2 albums, or like a pretty long album and an EP. I mean, you can still do like a 45-minute long album and an EP. It does feel kind of bloated, but at the same time, when you're listening to it, it just flows so well. I mean, there's not really a song on here that I hear where I'm like, yeah, you could take that song out. I mean, it all still works well. It just flows so well within all of, I mean, it's 18 songs, but they don't sound overwhelming. It doesn't sound like they're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's just, yeah, that's the only issue I really had with this album. So with all that said, I gotta give Jackpot Juicer by Dance Gavin Dance a 8.7 out of 10. I also want to point out that I just based all this off of the music. I know a lot of people, like I said before, they're going to be really turned off by Tillian being on this album. Still, a lot of fans are probably going to shy away from it. They don't want to support it, which I totally get. But I still want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Jackpot Juicer. Let me know what you rank it. Let me know what your favorite song is. And let me know how you feel like it stands with all of their other albums, because I feel like this one does stand out quite a bit, but it does have a lot of like vibes to their older stuff. So yeah, I want to know if that's something that I'm just not feeling, if it's something that everybody else is feeling as well. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, leave a comment below, also letting me know what I should review next. If you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. Doing any of that stuff just helps me out tremendously. I appreciate it more than any of you guys could ever imagine. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I will talk to you guys next time.
I was just an ignorant kid relying on my parents said to save me. Years gone by, turning over, ignoring every day. Said to convict me. 17 at the top of my own.